I'm Laurent Doguin. I work for Clever Cloud. This talk is called a personal pass to DevRel, PaaS, platform as a service. I work for Clever Cloud. We're a platform as a service. This was a dad joke. Anyway, so yeah, this is me. I'm going to talk mostly about me, so you don't have to see that. But yeah, if you want to buy some beer, I brew beer as well, which is cool. So how did I start doing this? I started out working for a company called Nuxio. That was in 2007, and I was a core developer. An engineer. I was writing code for a living. That was nice. I was sort of the most expensive personality we had in the company. I was one of the few that was okay to give out trainings for the company. I was giving out talks. I was going to pre-sales as well as an engineer, which is something that many people will tell you DevRel are not salespeople. But in reality, in most companies I've been into, I've been always dragged to do many different things like sales. But anyway, life was good, and I was a little bit bored by the product. So I started out talking to marketing people, and I joined the dark side of our job. I joined the marketing team. Before I was engineering, I went to marketing. I was the technical dude at the marketing, so I was working on SEO stuff, content, blogs, giving talks as well. And it sort of started out as a part-time job. And, well, it worked. Was good enough so that it became less of a part-time job, more like a full-time job. And it was nice. And that's how I basically started becoming... the term was community liaison, because community manager at the time was already... the guy that answered to people on Twitter and Facebook. But if you look back to the origin of the community manager word, it was mostly targeted about nurturing community. And nurturing is not necessarily just answering to people on Twitter. It's also taking care of your community. It's this the conversation thing. You have to go towards people. You have to give them something because they're giving you something too. So I was a community liaison, and one day. I had a call from a British person, a LinkedIn headhunter that tried to get me into Couchbase, which is how I started out my first job as a technical evangelist. That's what was written on my contract. Interesting fact, if you cross the US border and you go to the customs, and after an 11-hour flight, someone tells you, what's your job? Do not answer technical evangelist. It's going to be a long time, which I did, of course, after 11 hours flight. So yeah, I started out working at Couchbase. It was my first job as a proper evangelist. That's what was written on the contract, right? And the good thing is I was working with other evangelists. So I'm not sure what happened to the evangelism side at Nuxio, but I'm not sure they have a team. I'm not sure they're doing anything right now. But at least at Couchbase, there was a proper team. And I met this guy called Matthew Revel. He's the organizer of DevRelCon. If you are interested into DevRel, that's the shameless advertising plug. There's a DevRel conference in London, organized by this guy early November. Just type DevRelCon on Google, and there's a training session. There's an end conference. There's a conference. There's lots of videos on YouTube. So if that's a topic you want really to get into, I advise you to Google DevRelCon. And I started working with Matthew, and it was interesting to me because it became more professional. I never had any boss. When I was working at Nuxio, the only thing I could do to get better was, well, you already write 2 blog posts a week. Let's write 3 blog posts a week. That doesn't work like this. I'm not going to talk about content much, but content strategy shouldn't be about only about numbers and quantity. It should be about quality, because developers are absolutely terrible people. I know I'm a developer, and basically every evangelist or developer advocate, or however you want to call this, every evangelism efforts towards developers is trying to get a piece of your attention. To do a weird analogy, I don't know if you all know who Etienne Moujotte is. He was the boss of TF1, which is the biggest private channel we have on French television. And he said that he was basically selling brain attention time to his advertisers. And what DevRel are doing is basically competing for developers' brain attention time. That's basically all we do. And that's, that if there was one sentence to resume that job, probably this. So I learned how to care to those developers' brain. I learned how to work with other people. And one of the first thing we did to me that was really cool is that we had our own single budget, which might sound weird. Actually, that's one of the biggest issues I've seen with most DevRel teams. It's budget, and it's who are you talking to in the higher grades of the company. At Nuxio, I was part of the product team and marketing team. At Couchbase, I was part of engineering. At Clever Cloud, I'm basically my own thing, which is great. And there's other company where it can be both. It could be marketing, could be engineering, could be a mix of things. So I was engineering, so I got to talk to a lot of people about the product, and I went more into this developer advocacy thing than evangelism thing, which is each time I go out to conferences, I would get that feedback from developers, and I will give it back to my product team, which was great. When I was working at marketing, it was all about basically butts in seats meaning right now I'm talking to, I don't know, 50 people. I can do a report and say, hey, I've talked to 50 people. That's really enough. Marketing's interested about numbers because that's what your shareholders want to learn about. And the thing is, if you're doing developer relation, if you're doing evangelism, you have no idea how people will remember you. It's really hard. There's many talks about how do you measure your impact as a developer relation person. And to be fair, you don't really do that. I mean, you can try to do it. It's hard. And it's usually not relevant. You cannot go into someone's brain and figure out what they've learned from you, how they remember you. So basically what I'm trying to say is developer relation is a cost center in every sense of the word, because we are very expensive people. We travel to conferences and everything. We sponsor stuff. So it's a cost center which is really hard to measure. So if one day you go into that job, make sure your CEO is on board with you, because that's probably the most important thing for you. Anyway, that was Couchbase. I did lots of conferences, and I've met the people of Clever Cloud, which is Clever Cloud. We have shiny T-shirts, and we do platform as a service. We're basically a hosting company. We automate stuff on public and private cloud, but that's not the point. So, what is developer relation exactly? What does it mean? I like this image because I don't know if there's any DevRel here. I know there are, and I hope they feel like it's kind of true. So let's see. What my friend think I do. I'm never here. Each time they call, hey, you want to get a drink? I'm not. I'm in Birmingham. Taking a plane to Birmingham tomorrow for Acfront. Or I'm in other less fancy place. Like I've been to Clermont-Ferrand and Limoges. But good people, cool people. Anyway, so people think you're always traveling and super glamorous and everything. I mean, it is in the beginning. But it kind of sucks because you never see your friends. You spend your life in plane. Fun fact, the average life of a developer advocate is 9 to 12 months. Because usually people are burnt out after a year. So, if you want to get into this, just be careful. Now, what my parents think I do, I have no idea what they would think. I'm such a library nerd. I don't know what this picture is supposed to be about, but anyway. What my significant other things I do, and that's the most important thing, if you have a significant other in your life, you will have to explain very carefully what you do and why it's important that you're partying with other people all the time. You're trying to make a connection with other developers. Basically, you're the one that's supposed to buy beer so that people remember you. So alcohol and those social effects of alcohol, or not alcohol, you don't have to. Actually, most of the developers advocate I know basically stop drinking alcohol because there's so many occasions, it's too hard. I'm brewing beer, so I can't really stop. But anyway, what my boss think I do, and that's the most important thing. Again, we burn a lot of cash. And what I think, what I actually do, you can be sure I will be sleeping in a plane tomorrow morning. Now, about day-to-day activity, I'm not going to go towards everything that I do, and that goes back to the question that Dan asked a while ago, what's the difference between developer advocacy and developer evangelism? And this guy, Phil Legater, is an amazing developer. He's been doing this for years and years and years. And he pretty much did this thing. And if you tick the right boxes, The DevRel method will tell you if you're more into evangelism or more into developer advocacy. What's important here to remember is that DevRel is a field, it's not a job. Public speaking is a skill, it's not a job. I mean, some people have a full-time public speaking job, but anyway, it is a field where you can find many different jobs and many different activities. What am I going to do today or tomorrow? Today I'm going to organize a conference. I'm going to play with a fractal tree in CSS and JavaScript and WebSocket, and that's going to be fun. So I'm going to do a little bit of code. I'm going to do wiring. Well, solder ironing. I think that's what I was looking to. We have some nice IoT kit, and I need to, iron a bunch of stuff or solder a bunch of stuff. Those are gifts that we give to conferences because, of course, we want you to remember us. So when we go to conferences, we buy T-shirts. I've become an expert in T-shirts, in buying T-shirts. Like my last order was about 20,000 euros of T-shirts. We buy a lot of T-shirts. If you want some, go to any conferences where Advocacy is exhibiting, and you'll get a T-shirt. Not this one, because this one is only for the team, because it's shiny and all. And it's way more expensive. So yeah, I'm gonna talk shop with T-shirts makers. I'm going to go to Birmingham tomorrow. I'm going to give a talk. Which is exactly what I'm doing right here. I'm going to help people in this weekend, because sometimes you work over the weekend because your goal is to reach out to developers. And there's this particular breed of developers, these 9 to 5 people that are not available in your working hours. So you have to go at them on the weekend. So I'll be working this weekend and try to help people deploy stuff on Clever Cloud. Yeah, a bunch of things. And of course, I've been, as a DevRel working in a small company, I'm doing marketing, I'm doing sales, I'm basically dragged between every department of the company, because we are usually very curious people, very various profile. We want to do a little bit of everything, and that's pretty much how I ended up doing DevRel. Is that I was interested into everything, basically. So most DevRel I know that stopped doing DevRel went on to product marketing. Some went out to starting their own company because they have this weird mix of skills that allow them to do maybe a little bit of everything. Not expert, not super good at everything, but at least we're average. Like if you do a board game or a fantasy game, basically with the humans, elves and dwarves are very specialized. I'm human, I suck a little bit of everything, but average, that's right. Anyway, that's all I have. If you have any question, please shout in the shouting box.
Questions?
Hi. Do you think it should be a full-time job, or can you be like developer and do a little bit of advocacy on the side?
So should it be a full-time job, or can you do it on the side? It depends. It can be a full-time job, definitely. It depends on which kind of company you're working for. And what I'm trying to do in a very small company is trying to have everyone on board in the company to do a little bit of DevRel. So all our core engineers are going out giving talks. They're all trying to write a little bit of content. I'm just making sure that they don't give out too much talk so that they don't get burned out. I'm just making sure that if they want to go to a conference, they have some swag, they'll be happy to go there, and that they're writing good content. I'm encouraging people in a company to be a DevRel. You're all in your company, representing your company. And so, of course, if you want to do that a little more, then if you were working for Clever Cloud, I would encourage you to do it, definitely. So yes, it can be a part-time job, absolutely.
Hi, great talk. Sorry, did someone have?
It's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Great talk. Thanks very much for that. Really interesting. Really fun. Yeah, I think we're actually finding it difficult to do developer events and attract people. Do you have any tips for that? Like, for example, when you when you try and attract some developers to come to events?
So hire
Because they're
technical
a
people.
different breed, huh? Developers, we're dealing with like a different breed here. They're not like normal you and I, you know.
Yeah, it's called developers.
Yeah.
I know that jokes. Developers are divas. They. So let's say you only have marketing people at your events, and and they go to the developer and say, "Hey, do you want to learn everything about these new products? It's going to be amazing." And you know the guy is giving you a sales pitch, and that sucks, and you want to go away, and you never want to talk to these people anymore. And that's the whole issue about marketing and developers, is that developers are quirky individuals that have a quirky sense of humor, and that they'll see you coming miles away. So don't try to sell them anything. Try to create a connection. So don't sell any, and I'm sorry for any marketing people here, don't sell any people that work for marketing talk to developers unless they have this developer culture. The interesting things that I had while I was working at Nuxio was he started out as a consultancy company. And they had this culture of developers, and it never grew fast enough so that they would lose that culture. So any HR marketing people in Nuxio knew how to talk to developers and knew that trying to sell something is pointless. You need to create a connection. That's the whole thing about developer relation. You need to create a genuine connection, and if they need something, they'll find it. They can use Google and everything, so it's fine. So don't try to sell them anything. Just try to create a connection. If you want more practical tips, or is that all right? Oh, yeah. Cheers.
I'm kind of happy that he went before me, because my question sort of builds up on top of it. Is that we're trying to build a culture at our company where we start doing some events as well. But then I want to ask more about the internal perspective. How do you go about convincing the management, for example, in your company, that you need a bigger focus on these events, and basically how do you get them involved in it?
Yeah, so that's super hard. The whole point is have your CEO on board, because again, you are a cost center. It's going to cost some money at one way or another. So you need to sell this internally. It needs to be really clear that if you're organizing a meetup, your marketing people won't ask every person's email address, all this kind of stuff. So you need to sell this internally. Now, how would you sell this internally? Again, really hard. Completely depends on which kind of company you're working for. I've only been working for software vendor, so it was kind of easy for me because it makes sense. Our users were developer. Developers are users like any other user, so you need to take care of them. He understood that, and he knew that being a developer himself, that would work out. When I was working for Catchbase, it was a little bit different. The CEO was a salesperson more than a technical person. So we had to provide numbers all the time to tell them, well, this is why you're costing you so much money, is that we've talked to that many people and we've published that many blogs. And then it was a database company, so there was a website called DP Engine, and there was a ranking of all the database. Look, because of all the work we did, we moved one rank up, which never really knew if it was us or marketing or both. So hard to measure again. But yeah, the hardest thing is trying to sell this internally, and there's no advice except to convince them that it's useful, and yeah, that's hard.
When are hackathons a good idea?
I genuinely hate hackathon. As a very leftist person, I think that making people work for free on a weekend sucks. But if that's your thing, then you should have people to help you do it. I think everybody's that goes to hackathon are grown-ups, and if that's what they want to do, sure, and let's help them. And so that's what I'm going to do over this weekend. I'm going to go to that hackathon, talk to all those people, and have them deploy their software on Clever Cloud. If I've never been a big fan of hackathon professionally, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money for pretty much low numbers. But the good thing about hackathon is that those low numbers are very engaged. You created a good relationship. You've basically spent a weekend with them, and yes, of course they will remember you, and that's a good thing. So if you work for a big company that wants to see numbers, it's probably not a good idea. If you work for a small company like Clever Cloud and wants people to genuinely get into it and deploy stuff, just to slowly grow your user base, it's probably better.
We We have time for one more question. I saw him first, but we have the same theme after.
I'll be around until 2 p.m., so that's fine.
And that too.
So I'm
Hi.
available for consultancies.
Hi, thanks for the talk. My question is, what is the most efficient way for advocacy? Is it by giving talks, meetups, or posting some articles on your blog or maybe Medium, something like this?
Okay, so giving out talks doesn't scale. Let's be very clear about this. And you will burn out so fast, and you will go. So, but at the same time, you're going to say you can record talks through that. There's no magical recipe. I think if there was one, the world would be amazing because you will all get to your brain's attention and you will be able to print all our messaging to you. It doesn't work like this. So right now, the biggest companies that I as developer advocates are Microsoft or Google or basically anyone selling cloud. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. And they're all about visibility numbers. They want a big team. They want all their employees to have a huge follow-up on Twitter. They want to basically have all these people be a porte-voix. Comment on dit porte-voix en anglais? Anyone? Porte-voix en anglais? Sorry? Spokespeople, yeah. They want huge spokespeople. They want to have huge. Basically, it's called I would call that transversal developer advocacy. Is that the most people you can reach to, the more people you can recruit in your community, and the more people you're gonna have, the more efficiency you're gonna have. Now, from a technical support point of view, is it talks? Is it blogs? I mean, I'm absolutely terrible at writing some sort of blogs. I give average talks. Some people give amazing talks. Our best speaker is a core engineer at Clever Cloud, and so I cannot take him out at every conferences. So it really depends on your skill level and what you want to do. I guess everything works. It's mostly a scale issue. Don't burn out by giving out talks everywhere, even if it's cool. Try to build up more followers. That's how big companies do it most of the time.
So we do have time.
Please follow me on Twitter.
Well, we do have time for more questions. If you want to ask your question now, okay.
What could you say about the culture of DevRel in France, and what do you think about it?
Interesting question. So as we said in the beginning, DevRel is very much of it's not so new anymore, let's be honest. It's still sort of new, especially in France and Europe. It's a lot less new especially in Europe, a lot less in the US. It's more of a developer culture thing than an evangelism culture to me. In Europe, people are used to go to conferences. There's an insane amount of conference in Europe compared to the US. I think one of the reasons is people want to have conference in their native language. Actually, I had a talk about this with a former colleague of mine yesterday. She told me that DevOps France for us was for them was a super interesting conference compared to other UK conferences. The thing about DevOps France is that most of the talks are in French, so you will reach out to many developers. And there's like one big French conference, and all the big players in every O'Reilly conf, they would never do any conference in Paris. They always do it in London, and that gives you. It's harder to compete for people's brain in London because there's so many things. In France, maybe a little bit easier. I just started thinking about it yesterday. I think that's one of the issue. And then, as developers, how many of us are 9-to-5ers or crazy people who want to go to meetups and work over the weekend and do all these efforts to learn more? And it's I genuinely don't know enough outside of Europe to tell you how it would work there. I know that in France, if you want to reach out to people, one thing that really works out is TechLunch. I think some people understood that, or prawn bag lunches. To me, that's the hardest part. I'm in the classic conference circuit, so I will give talks to conferences, and most developers actually cannot justify getting a day off to go to a conference. I mean, usually they have to take a day off to go to a conference, which sucks. You should be able, as a developer, to at least go to 1 or 2 conferences a year to keep on learning things, because if you're doing that job, then that means you're okay to be at school for the rest of your life. That's pretty much what it is. So you need to do tech lunches, you need to do BBL, you need to maybe do breakfast, I don't know, maybe meet up. I'm still trying to figure this out. There's 2 very well-known evangelists that I tried to get here today that were both unavailable because they were either giving talk to conferences or giving another tech lunch. If you know Elasticsearch, you all know David Pilato. He's doing an insane number of tech lunch, and it works. So yeah, try to do more dedicated events. Usually works. That's how pretty much how Docker became so successful. They did an insane number of meetups and tech lunch in the beginning in the US, and it really worked out. So I guess it's more who are you talking to in the developer demography than in which country, to me. So that works.
Any more questions? All good? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.